Welcome everyone to episode number 17.
17.
One more year, and we're adult, or one more episode and we're adults.
Wow.
Crazy stuff.
Growing up so fast, this podcast.
Yes,
Why are we? Oh, because it's 18.
Yeah.
Well, it will be.
Yeah, it will be. We're 17 now. We're still a year left. We're juniors heading into our senior
What an
year.
interesting start to this
It
episode.
is, yeah, it's been an interesting morning so far, for sure. But anyway, let's get started. So, Steelers, 44 points against the Bengals. Crazy stuff from the offense. I want to get your guys' takes on the team going forward.
Yeah. I mean, I was very impressed with this game. I mean, I got to be honest, especially with the offense, obviously. 37 points, really the pick six, or not the pick six, but the recovery for a touchdown, obviously, was 7 points. But I just was really impressed. I mean, how could you not be impressed with 414 passing yards by Russell Wilson? It seemed like he was hitting every throw. I mean, and everybody, the big thing, too, was Pat Freiermuth got involved. I mean, really everybody did except Mike Williams, which I'm still very confused by. He's just not
10 different
getting
receivers got involved.
right.
And none of them were Mike Williams.
None of them were Mike Williams. It's just, I don't know. It's just very puzzling. Like, I just don't know. Is it just they doesn't know the playbook as well yet? The offensive
It
scheme.
can't be that at this point.
I know it's been several weeks now, but he has to get more involved though with the unfortunate Calvin Austin injury.
Actually, Calvin Austin was a full participant in practice yesterday.
Interesting.
So it
Oh,
looks
was
like
he?
he is
Wow.
okay. and
I thought he
ready
had
to go.
did he have a concussion or?
Not anymore, apparently.
Okay. Well maybe Mike Williams won't be playing very much.
Yeah.
But yeah. It was,
Sorry, Mike.
But it was great to see, Freiermuth get that touchdown and Russell Wilson throwing a little bit more over the middle and just hitting everybody. I mean, even Van Jefferson had a big catch too. So just really the diversification of the offense, I think, was key this week for the Steelers. And I got to be honest, I picked the Bengals to win, but that was just because I just can't pick the Steelers right. I just have no idea anymore. I'm just done. But because I just thought the Steelers defense wouldn't be able to hold up this offense, and I was like, will the Steelers offense be able to put up as many points and win a shootout? Well, spoiler alert, they can, and they did. And really, it shouldn't have even been that close. Cincinnati got that kind of garbage time touchdown, but it was within a score, so it wasn't really garbage time with their offense. But I think those turnovers were key because the Bengals were getting a lot of yardage, especially in the first half, but those second half turnovers really fueled the Steelers to kind of pull away in the second half. And can't say enough about, Dante Jackson. He's just been playing lights out. Peyton Wilson every week. But we do have to talk about some Joey Porter Jr. The penalties are an issue. And I got to be honest, like people were just saying the penalties. I just don't think he covers that good right now. I just don't. And that's why he's holding. That's why he's doing these things, because he's getting beat on some of these routes. And he's playing really good receivers. We saw what Jerry Jeudy did, and Jerry Jeudy just lit up the Broncos on Monday night. But it's very concerning to see what Joey Porter just not playing as well as he can be right now. And the Steelers need him to play well going into the playoffs and in these big matchups, because they're going to be playing some really good quarterbacks and really good receivers if they want to get to where they want to get to.
Yeah, well, about the Cincinnati game, I did pick me and Jake Bell were on the Steelers. This team is just so resilient this year. And they've always had a sense of resiliency, but there have been times where it's like there's a couple weeks in a row where it's just like they just look sluggish. And that was not the case at all. Now, I felt like we were the better team throughout the whole game, but we were at a disadvantage because of those first 7 points that Cincinnati had. So they had like a 7-up on us for a while because of that pick six that should have been called back. I mean, he was dragged down by the back of the helmet, and it wasn't called. It should have been an illegal use of hands penalty. That wasn't on Russell Wilson at all. But we have to take the offensive performance with a grain of salt, because Cincinnati's defense is awful. However, they are an NFL defense.
Barely.
We were on the road. I think a big key for Cincinnati is they don't have Logan Wilson anymore. And he's really the center of that defense. I mean, because when they had him out, they stopped Lamar that last game they played the Ravens. They stopped him for most of that game until the second half. I mean, they got players on that. I don't know. It's hard for me to explain why. I mean, they did lose some people, but the Bengals are one of the best 4-8 teams I've ever seen. You know, they have the quarterback with the most touchdowns, the receiver with the most receiving yards, and Trey Hendrickson the most sacks, and yet they're 4-8. So the Bengals are you know, that's still a very, very dangerous football team. And to go on the road and put that kind of – and I still thought, you know, even with the Bengals defense, you know, it would still be a typical AFC North game. But I was very critical of Arthur – and I'm going back to what I was most impressed with. I was very critical of Arthur Smith in the Browns game with the handling of Justin Fields. He just didn't have a good game, and it happens. But he really bounced back. And what I really liked is what you saw was the passing game – opened up the running game, because Pittsburgh is always run, right? And then we let Russ, you know, throw 25 to 30 times a game. But you saw first down, second down, play action, going deep, hitting the middle of the field. I mean, they were passing multiple plays in a row, and then that opened up the run game. And I'd like to see that more going forward. Now, there are some games like, the run game has to open the pass game. But if you could be two-dimensional and be able to do both and be more aggressive on first and second down. I mean, we always just see, like, they run the ball up the middle, you know, first down, then play action. But it was like big pass, then play action again, then a screen. The screens were actually working. And I was like, I want to see those work. And I think, I'm hoping, my hope is that this just isn't because of the Bengals defense, that Arthur Smith's play calling and Russell Wilson. I think what Russell Wilson proved was that we can open up the offense more with him. Like, no, I don't want him to be throwing 40 plus times a game all the time, but I can feel comfortable with it, especially with the way he's been protecting the football. And I mean, Russell Wilson, I thought he was going to be good, but these last two games, I mean, even though he lost to the Browns, they have been his best games, and he's looking. Of course, he's been looking better than I even thought he'd look. To be honest with you, his pocket presence has improved, has been better the last 2 weeks, and his movement outside the pocket is still. It's not what it used to be, but it's still dangerous.
Yeah, I mean, I am so happy to see this offense kind of adapt. Like, going into the game, we all knew that the Bengals secondary was their weak spot in the defense, even though they have a lot of weak spots outside Hendrickson. But we know the secondary is not great. So I like how the Steelers were willing to throw the ball more. They weren't just like, okay, we're just going to be stubborn and have the same game plan each week. They adjusted due to their opponents, and they were able to throw the ball with a lot of efficiency because that's how they were going to get most of their yards. And then, like you said, that opened up the running game, and they were able to run efficiently too. Whenever they did, they didn't run the ball as much as they usually do, but whenever they did, it was effective. I mean, Najee Harris had over 70 rushing yards.
I think it was 67% pass.
Yeah.
I don't remember the last time. I mean, obviously when we've been behind in games and stuff, but like to control a game like that, I haven't seen that in a long time.
Yeah,
what?
Sure.
What are you giving?
No, I'm
because
my views of stress. I'm like going back to see you.
We're like Jake Bell.
I'll go like this.
No, actually, I think it's better this. Move up again, because then I can actually look at and I can still see Jake Bell.
Yeah.
Well.
No, but I completely agree, and I think we were all critical of Arthur Smith last week against the Browns, especially on those fourth down decisions and the play calls. I think the play calls were diversified so much more in this game. And like you mentioned, Payne, the play action off the pass, a lot more passes than we've seen. And Russell, I mean, he was hitting every throw, really. And even with the distraction of George Pickens having the unsportsmanlike penalties, the Steelers were able to, their offense was just humming.
Probably would have scored more points if it wasn't
Probably, yeah.
Because we hit that deep ball, and then it ended up being a 15-yard penalty. And then they got the field goal block. So that should have been 7 points.
That could have been a 50-point.
And that could have been because the Bengals were driving, and we forced our defense got a red zone stop. That could have been a turning point in the game. I think we need to talk about George Pickens real quick because, look, I love the kid's talent, but when something goes wrong, like with that pick six, I mean, it was showing the Hard Knocks. Tom was like, "Stay with me, George," and obviously he didn't stay with him. Like, he had some good plays, but you can't, and the people are like, well, he clearly had two, that was a gun point. okay? And I don't care what anybody says. And either way, you have to be smarter. And we just, in a critical playoff game, we cannot have that happen.
Right. Yeah.
You cannot. And if I'm the Steelers, because next year's going to be a contract year for him, I very strongly consider moving off of him, getting what you can, and signing T. Higgins. Because I think Tomlin really, really likes T. Higgins, based on what he said in some press. He called him a goon, but I think he meant that in a positive way. But I can't stand that stuff. I've seen it for too long. I just can't.
Gotta grow up.
We gotta grow up.
It's year 3, right?
Yeah.
It's been enough.
And I love the Michael Brewerly stuff, but like,
we love it. We love that.
And Joey Porter. Now I think we're getting Corey Trice back this week.
You love that guy.
I like Corey Trice a lot. I don't know how good he'll play. But I think if Joey Porter continues this penalty stuff, it just seems like it's a bad habit at this point. I want to see Corey Trice get some, because teams are just throwing at Joey Porter, hoping he's going to get these penalties. I mean, that was the most penalties. That was a lot of penalties, man.
But anyway, we'll go into straight into college football. We got a lot of 2-loss teams that are in the playoffs. A lot of craziness. Let's get your guys' thoughts before we touch a little bit on Pitt football, no matter how little we want to do that, because they lost 5 straight.
Yeah, so I think the big takeaways this year is the SEC, like, I think it might even be a down year for them relative to kind of the teams in their conference, but they're still, like, number one, just because of the incredible depth that they have. I mean, they might not get as many in the playoffs, but they're going to have a lot of teams like South Carolina, like Ole Miss, like Texas A&M, Missouri, that are going to be in the end of the top 25. That'll really help propel the other teams that maybe like a 3-loss Alabama into the playoff over a 2-loss Miami or somebody else like the Big 12 champion. So, the Big 12 champion, man, never mind. I was confused. I was talking with Peyton about the playoff tonight because I thought it was the 4 highest ranked conference champions make it, but it's actually the 4 Power 4 teams automatically make it. I didn't realize that.
Yeah.
Because Arizona State's outside the top 12, so I thought, well, even if they win it, they're not going to make it. But I didn't. I was tripped up by that. It's the first year. It's very.
Yeah.
What is that?
Oh boy.
What are you?
Bro,
I was cooking.
It's literally, just keep cooking. Keep cooking.
Okay.
I
Now
don't know what's going on.
Peyton, it's been a rough morning for
I'm
you,
out
so-
of.
It really
I'm out of sync now. Okay, I'm gonna 3, 2. I'm just gonna I'm gonna do like sideline 3, 2, 1.
Yep.
No, but
we
yeah,
should include that. I think we should.
Yeah, let's do it.
it.
Let's do it. You guys are gonna see it.
we can. But yeah, that's my big takeaway. The Big Ten. I said this on sideline. The Big Ten really, if you look at it, it's not much different from the ACC or
Very top heavy.
It's very top heavy, and it's. The top 4, that are going to be in the playoff, and then there's no other ranked Big Ten teams, I don't think, outside those 4.
No,
Everybody
I
else
think
has like
so,
5
yeah.
losses or more.
Oregon, Penn State, Ohio State, Indiana.
I think that's it.
So.
And that's something, if the Big Ten teams, underperform in the playoff, that might be discussed. Like, hey, maybe these teams were just dominating very mediocre teams in their conference. And the ACC, kind of similar thing, just the teams at the top aren't quite as good. I think even if no matter what, SMU should make it. I know their schedule wasn't the greatest. Their toughest games were like Pitt and at Louisville. But I think they're and BYU, obviously they played home, but they lost that game. But I think when they played, they dominated. I think even if they lose, they'll be 11-2. But I do think they beat Clemson. I just don't think Clemson's really I think they're just like a top 20 kind of team. I don't think they're a playoff team. They lost to South Carolina, who's not going to make it.
Yeah.
I just don't think they're really that good. I don't think Miami really should be. I'm fine with Alabama being over Miami because Alabama's playing a tougher schedule, and Alabama overall has looked better. Now Miami's lost close. Alabama just got blown out by Oregon and lost some questionable games. But I think Alabama, the committee will put them in, and I don't really have a problem with that. So.
Well, yeah. So I'm trying to understand this whole new bracket because it's confusing.
Yeah.
But so it is the top 4. It's the highest ranked It's based on the highest ranked conference champions.
Right.
So if Oregon wins, they'll be the highest ranked conference champion. They'll be the number one. If Boise State wins, they'll be the fourth highest. So they'll be the 4th seed.
So even though they're not Power 4, they would still
Yeah,
be
it's the
fourth
4
seed.
highest, and then but the
Okay.
Big 12 team will make it though, no
Gotcha.
matter what.
But-
Yes.
so-
they'll
but-
be the 5th. So whoever.
And they'll probably be the 12 seed.
Yeah.
So since Boise State's the best group of 5 teams, so they get
Right.
the bid, right? Okay.
Right.
Okay.
And then since they're ranked higher than the Big 12 champion, then they're the
Right.
4 seed.
So
Okay,
that Arizona
gotcha.
State Iowa State game, the winner of that game is going to be in.
Right.
It's going to be
Yeah.
a low seed.
Yeah.
Now, to me, they should be whoever wins that Big 12 championship should be a higher seed than Alabama, in my opinion. Let's be honest about Alabama. Okay, look, I want to see them in. Like,
I don't really
I
want
want to see them in over Miami. I understand that Miami lost that Alabama lost to 2 6-6 teams, but Oklahoma and Vanderbilt to me are better than Georgia Tech and Syracuse.
I don't know.
Yes,
They're very similar, right?
Oklahoma's
No.
defense is
Yeah, but they
it's
have
been
no
very
offense,
good
though.
all year, but their defense is one of the best in the country. Not one of the best, but like top 15 in the country. Probably. Like they have a very good defense. And then Vanderbilt, that's a good team. They beat they beat Virginia Tech. They beat some teams.
Well, Syracuse 9-3 though, and they're ranked. And Georgia Tech should have beat Georgia. I mean,
True, but I don't know. I just don't respect the ACC that much. Now, but like Bama, and here's the thing. So like and here's the big thing. If Clemson gets in,
yeah.
then Miami's definitely out,
Yep.
and Bama,
Could be out.
Yeah.
yeah, Bama.
But would they put
could be
Bama?
out.
Who would they put over? Would they put SMU or Alabama in?
SMU has to.
Well,
win.
I would, but
Yeah.
you never with the committee.
But SMU made their conference championship. They only
I
lost
agree.
one game, and the one game they lost to was to a good BYU team.
A very good BYU
I agree.
team at the time.
SMU
too,
to
yeah.
me is in. So if you're Alabama, I think Miami's going to be out. Based on what I'm looking at here, Miami's going to be out because the winner of that Arizona State Iowa State game is just going to knock them out.
Right.
But Alabama's got to hope that Clemson doesn't win. Now, if UNLV would upset Boise State, would they get in?
Yeah.
Or would Boise State still be in because they would be the highest ranked?
Well, they might
would
not
Boise
be.
State-
They might not be ranked over UNLV because UNLV's ranked right now.
Oh, they are. Oh, I didn't know
UNLV's
that. Yeah.
20th.
Yeah.
Yeah. UNLV might make it.
God, I hope not.
Imagine that.
I want to see the running
the
back
old
get
the
in.
old Pitt receiver coach as their offensive coordinator, and then they make it. It would be crazy.
But like you can't have like Alabama can't have that happen. They can't
Yeah.
have what's another game? I guess that's the now I'm really rooting for SMU because I don't want to see Clemson. I mean, I
Same.
watched Clemson in person.
Yeah.
They're not that good of a team.
Should have lost.
I thought South Carolina was going to beat them by more than they did. Honestly,
Should have lost to 7-5 Pitt.
Yeah.
yeah, like just I don't know. Miami could have an argument over Bama, but the CFP has already made it clear that Bama is, and I can respect that. I just think the SEC is just a tougher conference. It just is. You look at the SEC, you see how these teams play. It's just better. But I am really now. Let's get into some of these games this week. I want to talk about a couple of these games.
Okay.
So we need to talk about Ohio State. What
Yeah.
a horrific
Yeah.
loss.
Right.
I think if Ryan Day doesn't win the national championship, he's out.
Yeah.
Like
What if he plays for the
you
national
held them to
team?
62. It doesn't matter.
Okay.
I think 62 yards passing, and you will lose that game. I mean, Michigan. At least they have an identity. Ohio State does not have an identity at all. They don't. They should have been a run heavy team, and they're not. I don't know. They just. Well, and then I think that game they just went away from their receivers too. But that's just an unacceptable loss. And that allows for Penn State to get the opportunity. And Penn State, I mean, they've really beat nobody, let's be honest. But they get a huge opportunity to play Oregon. If Penn's, I don't think
they win that, but
Yeah.
I hope Oregon blows them out of the water.
Yeah.
And I think Oregon's offense is for real, but Oregon's defense is not excellent.
Yeah, so Ohio State, it was interesting. I was initially kind of questioning why they only dropped 4 spots after that loss because it was such a bad loss.
Tennessee should be higher than them.
But they don't want to they don't want to put Tennessee over because Ohio State looks like the better team, like just watching them. And throughout the whole season, I mean, they're just blowing teams out. In Tennessee, they blew out UTEP, but that's really, and Kent State, but that's really, I mean, they had closer games throughout the season.
And to me, you got to look at the losses. Tennessee lost to, who'd they lose to?
Georgia and Arkansas. But
Arkansas is a decent team.
But Arkansas is not much better than Michigan. They're better, but it's not,
Michigan does not have a quarterback.
Michigan beat Northwestern 50-6 the previous week. Do you know that?
Northwestern is on another level of terror.
No, they're not. They won like 5 games.
For them, that's actually not.
Oh yeah, but by the way, please introduce your new Purdue football head coach, Ryan Day.
Purdue, I can't believe how bad they are.
They are historically awful as a power conference team, but it's a very hard job. Jeff Brom did a great job there, but we can sidetrack. So yeah, I think Oregon does win that Big Ten championship. I think they're a better team. I think they're a more well-rounded team. I just think Drew Aller, you can't trust him in these big games to have good games. Every big game, every game against Ohio State, he's going to throw for just over 100 yards. It's just not enough, and you can't rely on the running game in these bigger games to win against high-octane offenses. So I think Oregon wins that one. What do we got? We got Texas, Georgia.
Georgia beat Texas, but I think I'm saying this because I haven't seen a lot of Oregon. I've watched more Texas. Texas is my favorite team. I think they're the favorite to win it all. Quinn Ewers can be very up and down, but you could bring in Arch Manning. We saw them do that to provide a spark, and their defense is really, really good. I mean, and I love their coach. I think that Georgia game was a bad spot for Texas in the season, but Carson Beck, I don't buy that. I don't buy him at all. Kirby Smart, you can never doubt him, but I like Texas in that game.
Yeah, I think Texas will play for the national championship. I agree with you. It was a tough spot because Georgia at the time, they had a lot of tough games remaining still, and that was like a must-win game for them.
Right.
To stay, because if you have 2 losses that early in the season, you'd have to be perfect the rest of the way against. And they played Ole Miss. We saw they lost to Ole Miss.
Right.
They played Tennessee, and they played Georgia Tech, who almost beat them too. So I think I do agree with you. It was kind of a tough spot. I do think Texas' defense is really good. The question is, will their offense? It hasn't been as high octane.
Yeah, Ewers isn't. I mean, he's a good college quarterback, but you could see he's not. He's a little erratic. He's just not.
Yeah.
Right.
As crazy talented as like an Arch Manning. With his talent.
Yeah.
Yeah. What do you think,
Jake? You got
Bell?
some picks?
You got any games you like this week?
It's tough.
It is tough. I mean, I think Oregon's going to win. I think the only game that I think is going to be, you never know, is Texas and Georgia. And I think Texas will win, but Georgia, they could still come out. And while the Big 12 looks like it could go either way, I don't think Arizona State's losing that game.
Really?
I
do not.
Arizona State's been the most underrated team all season.
I think they're going to go in and win.
They were picked last in their conference.
Dead last.
Yeah, that's
now,
they went 3
they were bad.
They went 3-9 last year.
Yeah.
I haven't watched any Arizona State or Iowa State games.
They have a running back, Cam Scatabo, who just runs it down.
Yeah, I just can't
throat.
tell you about that game. I know I like Iowa State's coach. I mean, he's really built a consistent program over there.
At a tough place.
Yeah. Yeah, okay, so you like Arizona State. Or what's the line in that game?
I don't think they'll make the national championship, but I think they win the Big 12.
So you like them to beat
If they won the national championship, that'd be insane.
Yeah, imagine.
I want that. I would love for that to happen.
Yeah, absolutely.
Or Boise.
SMU, I think Clemson. I just know Clemson. They're gonna give SMU problems.
It'll be kind of close.
It's gonna be close. I mean, Dabo Swinney. He's not going to let go of this opportunity.
No, he's not. Yeah.
And that makes me nervous. It really does. But I think SMU, I mean, they've been dominating teams. They've looked like a legit football
Their
team.
offense is very good.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then I think that's all. That's it. And Boise State, UNLV. Boise State should win with their running back.
UNLV's a good team though. They got a Brendan Marion.
He should be our offensive coordinator right now. But we chose Frank Signetti instead. So
we don't. We Pitt Football consistently makes the wrong coaching decisions. And decisions in general. But
speaking of Pitt Football, they had an interesting signing class just because they lost Elijah Dotson and Demarion Folks, who were 2 4-star, very good players. Lost them within the last week or two before signing day, and then they grab in a surprise running back and wide receiver that wasn't previously committed, and they signed with Pitt. One was an FAU decommit it wasn't Pitt was desperate. He was receiving a bunch of interest late from other Power 4 teams, and then
who is this again?
I forget his first name. His last name's Sapp, I believe. And then they also bring in a running back that was a decommit from Louisville, who's built like Desmond Reed, from what I was told. So, I mean, it looks like our offense has it tight. But there's one player specifically that I really want to talk about that Pitt signed, and that was quarterback Mason Heinschel.
Yes, I heard about him.
He is only a 3-star recruit, but I'm telling you, if he played football in Texas or Florida, he'd be a 4-star recruit with ease, within every single website, every single company. He is a fantastic player. He's not only amazing in the pocket, but he's able to go out of the pocket and extend plays. I mean, this is a quarterback that, like Kenny Pickett, is a lot better than his star rating. And I'm not saying he's going to be the next
Pitt
Pickett.
Players are better than their star rating.
And I'm not saying he's going to be the next Kenny Pickett, but when Eli Holstein's gone, hopefully he stays another year or two. Whenever he's gone, Mason Heinschel will be a redshirt freshman, redshirt sophomore.
Well, he was the only quarterback in their class, correct?
Yeah, I mean, they have Sean Lee who can play quarterback, but they want him to play on the defensive side.
Right. I mean, I would have liked them to maybe bring in 2 legitimate quarterbacks because I am not sold on Eli Holstein.
Yeah.
Nate Yarnell, is he done? He has one more year.
He can come back if he wants.
But he's not.
Yeah. He might. I think it's run its course.
I think he will transfer after the bowl game. He's gonna play the bowl game. Yeah. He's gonna start that game. There's no point in him transferring.
It would be great if he wins that.
It's an audition game for him, probably.
Absolutely.
But I think they could, bring in as many quarterbacks as you can, because I'm not buying Holstein. It looks like Cade Bell is going to stay.
Yeah.
I haven't heard anything different recently. So
I hope Des Reed is staying.
Yeah.
Is he gonna play in the bowl game?
He's hurt right now, but
they're trying to get him in the bowl game. I don't know how that's going to work though.
I think you just rest him.
Why not see what Jules Goff has? You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well,
I don't know.
I want to win a bowl. I'm very passionate about the bowl game.
Yeah.
I need to win that Idaho Potato Bowl.
Yes.
But Narduzzi, he brings in good players. It's just it's the same. It is what it is. And I mean, it's just, I'm not surprised that they lost 5 in a row. And it's a shame. It really is a shame, because they're never, you never know. You're probably never going to start out the way they did again.
Right.
Yeah.
So, you got to live with the overrated coach. It is what it is.
Yeah.
And the coaching decisions, and I feel like the way he's handled the quarterback position the last few years has just been not good. And then obviously his teams are just generally undisciplined. So Pitt football is Pitt football. Not much more you could say. Now, who do we want to see them play? What bowl game would you like to see them in, and who would we want to play?
Just a Power 4 team.
People were talking about Pitt should just skip their bowl game. Teams do that.
Yeah.
But I think Pitt, that's like for bigger schools who don't need the money.
Yeah.
Like
I haven't seen that.
Pitt, they're like,
I've seen players
bigger
skip
schools. They're like, we had a down year.
Well, that's, in basketball, that's like in basketball, like when Pitt said, we're not doing the NIT, like kind of those things where it's like, we just don't want to,
It's more rare in football, but I've seen it. But I don't, okay. Pitt's not going to pass on the money. They're
going to play the ball, yeah.
And, they have some good wins, some relatively decent wins on their resume.
Yeah.
If they would have beat Clemson, or if they would have just finished with 8 wins, it would have helped them a lot more. Because if you take away the Kent State and Youngstown State games, they're a 500 team. Obviously, they're 7-5, so that's one. I don't know what I'm even talking about. But any bowl games? Any match.
Well, if they would have won 8 games, I don't really know bowl game names anymore.
Me neither,
they
yeah,
change
it's just-
every year.
Yeah.
But I always think of the Pop-Tart Bowl, which is always like, I think last year's NC State versus Kansas State, but they were 8-4 and 9-3, I think. So that's not. If Pitt would have won one more game, if they win like Virginia, if Pitt just were, if they lost, at SMU versus Clemson at Louisville, which I thought they would anyway, and they finished with 9 wins, beating Virginia and Boston College, they get a really good bowl game, and people's perceptions are completely. Even if they win one game, if they beat Virginia,
Yeah.
it's so much different than winning 7 straight and then losing 5 straight. It's just, but 8-5 is a big difference in 7-6
Yeah.
for this Pitt football team going into next season. Your point about the quarterbacks, maybe they should have got another quarterback, but there's always the transfer portal now too.
Right.
And they
you know
also
what I
have
want
a lot.
to. Here's what
Yeah.
I'd do if I was Pitt. And I want to keep Holstein around, but if he wants to leave. I'd go after the kid who just left USC, Mason Miller. I really,
Miller Moss.
Or Miller Moss.
Mason Miller,
Mason
Oakland
Miller,
A's.
the Oakland A's. Miller Moss, thank you. I watched him play against LSU. Was really impressed. Not a big kid, but I think there's something there. I think Lincoln Riley, he just likes to go through QBs, because he wants to find the perfect guy. But I think Miller Moss, Pitt should bring him in. I think it'd be a perfect landing spot, especially with Cade Bell, who likes to throw the ball a lot. Miller Moss would be, I think, a great fit. But who knows if he'd want to come here? But from USC. But hey, we got that one kid, Max Brown from USC. That went horrible.
Maybe third time's a charm for USC.
Oh yeah,
quarterbacks.
and Kate.
Keaton Slovis, yeah.
Yeah, so maybe third time.
Max Brown was on the call for the Pitt Boston College game.
Yeah. Also, there's another quarterback that entered the transfer portal that would be interesting. I don't think Pitt's going to go after him, but it's just something to keep in mind because they offered him out of high school. Connor Wegman from Texas A&M. He lost his starting job. He's not. I mean, I'm not saying he's good. I'm just saying that might be a quarterback that they
He
go
can't
after.
move. He does not move.
Yeah, but he has that pedigree of being a 5-star quarterback, and I know that means a lot now. So like, I don't know. That could be something realistic for Pitt if they lose Holstein. I don't think they bring him in if Holstein stays. I don't think that would make sense for him or for Pitt. But
The Pop-Tarts Bowl, it is ACC Big 12, but that's going to be probably
Louisville
the
or something.
loser. It's going to be one of the higher end Big 12 teams, and either like Syracuse, Clemson, or I can't believe it makes me so mad. We destroyed Syracuse, and they ended up 9-3.
Yeah.
That's just
yeah,
you got to get to 8 or 9 wins. Like that's just unacceptable.
right.
I would like to see them play Michigan.
That's what I want. That's the exact matchup I want.
I want
in
to
the
see
bowl
them
game.
play, but
I think
that would be a
I
fun
think them
game.
beating Ohio State elevates them to a higher bowl game, and I think Pitt could end up playing like a MAC team or something. I could see that.
I don't
happen.
want Eastern Michigan all over again.
Because-
Quick Lane Bowl,
Yeah.
Quick Lane Bowl.
because
That's-
them losing 5 games in a row,
Yeah.
they're just not as.
But it would be you got to win it, and then you could be 8-5, and then it's like,
Yeah.
hooray.
Woo!
Hang the banner.
Hang the banner.
Well, I think that's all
That's
we
a good
have for
pl-
yeah. That's a
Yeah,
good place to stop.
I think going into next season, it would just be a huge win.
Yeah.
To just because it is crazy. Like if you told any Pitt fan before the season, you go 7-5, you beat West Virginia, you beat Cincinnati. I thought they would go 7-5. I'm upset that my prediction was true.
Yeah.
But you would have taken that going into the season. With where they were last year, it's just perceptions and expectations change when you start 7-0.
Yes.
You can't end 7-5. That just can't happen.
Yep.
You can't really end 8-4 either. That's not even like we see it with Syracuse a lot like recently, where they've had really easy schedules early on, and they're like, oh, they're 6-0, and then they end up being 7-5 or 6-6 at the end.
Yeah.
It's just not a good way to go out. I think if Narduzzi's buyout were lower, there might be questions about his job security, but even
with
if
a new AD for sure, like
Right.
yeah.
I'm seeing here Pitt has received Pinstripe Bowl, and I'd like to see us play in the Pinstripe Bowl.
the Fenway Bowl or the
Stadium.
Pinstripe. The Fenway Bowl is always like crazy bad weather.
Vanderbilt or like an Arkansas would be interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would be good.
Pitt
I've seen
versus-
Vanderbilt in the Gasparilla Bowl as a possibility.
Yeah.
If Pitt would, and Pitt could have played Colorado too. That would have been. I would have
that
loved to
would've
see
been
that.
Yeah.
We probably would have
Narduzzi versus Dion. The bad blood.
All right, so we did have to move to locations, but we are back, and we are going to talk some Buccos. The Pirates have winter meetings coming up, so it's going to be hopefully a huge offseason because this is a season where they need to make the playoffs. So I want to get your guys' thoughts.
Yeah. Yeah, this is big because after 2 consecutive 76-win seasons, I think it's a must-win season, must kind of playoff season really for the Pirates. And you're looking at what the needs are. It's kind of interesting because there are some needs, but you feel like organizationally they can be filled. Potentially, there's 3 catchers right now we have that are capable. One of them probably will be moving to first base, so you'd have to figure so all 3 of them could be on the roster. Will Reynolds move from left to first, or will he stay in left? And if he does, and they're looking for outfield, who could they potentially get? Are they going to be in talks with Max Kepler potentially? Jake, you were talking about Jock Peterson, maybe that would be an interesting option. They're not going to be in the running for Hernandez, Cesar Hernandez, or even an Anthony Santander probably. But if you could get a Jock Peterson, that will be kind of expensive. Will be expensive for sure because he's a really good player.
It's not going to happen.
I don't know if it's going to happen.
Not going to happen.
It's probably a low probability, but I think that if they were to get Jock Peterson, it would be a massive improvement to this team, and it would be the biggest free agent signing in a while for the Pirates. I mean, I can't think of.
Possibly ever.
Possibly, depending on how this team does in 2025.
Here's the problem with the Pirates: they're always getting guys on the cheap, and the way they do that is they see guys who have maybe done something good or have potential in some way, but they have the year prior they didn't do it good enough. That's why they're getting them on the cheap. And if they're going to be serious, they need to go out and get someone who was good last season, or at least in 2022, at least. And like Jock Peterson is a great example. Are they going to spend the money to do that? No. The reports are they're going to increase the payroll, that they're going to be active in the trade market. I heard that they're going to make like a surprise move. Well, I'm not buying it until I see it because let's be honest, Ben Cherington has sat on his hands since the beginning of 2024 because he did more for the 2023 season, let's be honest, than he did in the 2024 season.
Yeah.
And then the trade deadline was like, you have to show us something. Well, they did like the last, I forgot to do my homework kind of deals. They got IKF, who, that might be the best we see from him. If we're like
they brought him in to be a utility guy. Hopefully, he should not be our starting shortstop.
But that's what it's looking like.
Yeah.
Who else? Unless you move Gonzalez to short, and you're gonna, there was a report where we might be bringing in a Brandon Lau, which I would be absolutely
Same
for.
here, yeah.
But I think IKF would be better as a utility role guy because for him to have the year he did last year is probably. I just don't know. His career has shown that he's usually not like that. So, and it's just the Pirates' curse. So they have to go out and actually get 2 or 3 legitimate players. Some guys who maybe they could get on the cheaper end, but I think are legitimate, would be like a Max Kepler, which he's a free agent.
Yeah.
Although he had a very bad, he's been a little inconsistent. I'm not as high on him, but it makes sense because Shelton was with Minnesota, right? So there's a connection there. But I like Austin Hayes, who was hurt all of last year, so many injuries. But you look at the 3 years prior, a quality player. I wrote about that on my Bucks Dugout article recently. And I'm trying to think. Oh, and another guy I really like, and I think he kind of rebounded last year with the Washington Nationals, but I think there's room for more, is Jesse Winker. And if you look at Jesse Winker's numbers, he's always getting on base. And that is something the Pirates, that's why they let go of Brian De La Cruz. He was the worst on base guy in the league, like the second worst. So, but they got it. It's like, it's shut up and what's the phrase? Shut up and I can't anyway. But put up or shut up. Put up or shut up time, because They did nothing at the trade. I'm not going to believe anything until I see it. But you would think it would be desperation time for Ben Cherington. It's you have the and I think we might see them go. When we say a surprise move or an aggressive move, it's probably going to be more likely it's in the trade market than it's in free agency. And they have the pitching prospects to give away to go out and get a big time player too. So it's put up or shut up time. It really is.
Yeah, for me.
And I don't have a lot of faith, to be honest. I just don't. Yeah. I don't like Cherington. He's proven nothing really. So.
Yeah, for me, like I've told you guys 1,000 times, I think the Pirates, especially with winter meetings coming up, put Bailey Falter out in the market because Matthew Boyd, he's signing for $15 million a year, and Frankie Montas signed a huge deal, like not a huge deal, but a lot more than he probably should have made. This is the time where teams are trying to get pitching, something that the Pirates actually have a lot of. So you got to expect that this is going to be Bailey Falter's best season in a full season, right? I think we can all agree. I think you have to sell high now and grab a bat because there's going to be teams that are desperate for pitching. Arizona might be willing to trade a bat for a pitcher.
How much are you going to get back for a Bailey Falter?
Even if it's a decent starter at best, I'd be cool with that because there's no offense on this Pirates team aside from a couple people.
I think if you want to get you'd have to include someone else in that package probably.
Yeah, that would be fair.
This is 2:00 in the afternoon. When we recorded it was 9 o'clock. We saw Greg Brown today. He was at Point Park. We love Greg. Maybe we'll have him on the show sometime.
Wink, wink, potentially.
Yeah. But he said that although there were reports about this, but apparently the Pirates said no. But apparently Brownie has heard this again. I mean, this is not an official report or anything, but that the Pirates were looking possibly again. This was talked about a while back. Jared Jones for Jackson Holiday, and I love Jared Jones, but I think there's a potential there with arm issues with Jared Jones. I think they have a lot of guys. This Bubba Chandler is going to be coming up, a bunch of different guys. I can't think of it at the top of my head. Jackson Holiday to me could be a generational hitter. He's not like a real big kid, but this guy has the tools. He has the mechanics. That's a guy who could come in and change this franchise, turn this franchise around and do a real contender real quick. I would do that trade in a heartbeat. But Ben Cherington is just he's ultra conservative, and you can't be ultra conservative, especially with a low payroll. You can't be ultra conservative.
But you also can't take major risks too, because with that low payroll.
Well, I'm talking about in the trade market. You have to be
That's true.
Be aggressive. And one way or another, you have to take a risk because it's not like you have, the Dodgers can get all the best players and there's not a whole lot of risk to it because they have all the money in the world.
They defer 25 years.
That shouldn't be allowed, by the way. Yeah. I didn't even know that you could do that until Ohtani did that.
Yeah.
Which is crazy, but
yeah, but no, acquiring if you acquire Jackson Holiday with Jared Jones, there's there's the positive and negatives. Like obviously that's going to be a high risk, high reward type that deal you would have to make. But I didn't think this was going to be the case 3 years ago because of the talent we had in middle infield. But shortstop's a need now because O'Neal Cruz is now out in center. And I do not want IKF as a starting shortstop going into a playoff year. I just don't think that makes sense. That would fill a huge need. And if Jackson Holiday is what he has done in the minor leagues and is what is advertised, that would be a game changer. That would be an absolute game changer of a player to have on your team. So it's weird because we already know what we have in Jared Jones, right? He's a big strikeout guy. His ERA is going to be in the low 4s, high 3s. That's how it's been his entire career. We know what we're going to get from him, and he's basically been the same player from the minors to the majors. But Jackson Holiday, if he becomes a star, like that all of a sudden is a huge trade and one of the easily the best trade you could make in the 2020s decade. So,
I mean, I think, and I want to talk about first base. I like the idea of Brian Reynolds being the first base, but the report that came out was that he's going to be part-time at first base or something. And that means that they're probably looking at a platoon. They know that Brian may want to move to first. They know Endy could play first. So to me, that means there's probably going to be a lot of inconsistency at first base because there's going to be probably a platoon there. But if you have Brian... maybe they'll just platoon Brian in. You got to have an actual first. You have to sign somebody. But I think it could be more of a Rally Tellez type of signing than a
So would
Christian Walker.
So would
or
they move
something.
Reynolds to DH whenever he's not at first base? Because I don't know if they would put him back in left field after being a first
I
baseman.
assume not.
So
But here's the thing, and I know there's these analytics, but when I watch, like Greg Brown actually said this, we were talking about this. He doesn't play bad in left field. Yeah, he doesn't have the range, but he doesn't make stupid errors. Like, he's fine. Like, but and that's why I think if they are going to put him in, they have to be real aggressive in the outfield market because they already have a hole in right field. If you move Reynolds in left, you got to grab a couple of decent guys, at least two, and maybe one other like below average guy. So they have a lot of work to do. I think they can't just. It would be a bad look if they're completely quiet at the winter meetings. They have to do something of significance to get some good. We are about PR here with the Pirates. They need some good PR right now.
Yeah.
Because people are back to being down on this team. And there was a lot of hope last year, but how that season ended and the trade deadline, there is a lot of negativity.
Yeah, I mean, big losses. Michael A. Taylor, Ronnie Jones,
Yeah.
this outfield
I mean,
has lost a lot.
Yeah.
And no, I completely agree. I mean, if they do move Reynolds to even though like kind of like a platoon kind of thing, still moving him to first base in principle, then you do have to be even more aggressive in the outfield work because then you're looking at right and left, right, and to pair with O'Neill Cruz. And I actually wouldn't be opposed to like bringing Michael A. Taylor back just as like early on as a defensive, because with O'Neill Cruz, I think it would benefit O'Neill Cruz just to like, I know there's not that many roster spots, but just a defensive, maybe a better offensive player, but a defensive minded
like someone that.
Well, here's a person. Can I throw out a name? This is someone I included in my article. This guy had like one of the worst years possible last year. He's a younger player, but the 3 years prior he was great. I mean, he could play all three outfield positions. I think that the Astros are looking to trade him, and that's Chas McCormick. He can play center. He has the range. He's quick. He's a good fielder. And if they could get some of the bat that he used to be, I'd rather take a chance on a Chas McCormick than going back to a Michael A. Taylor.
But yeah, if that opportunity is available.
Right. But obviously. I don't think they'd have to give up that much for him. And I wouldn't trust him in his starting role, but he'd at least fill a roster spot. And then what was I? Oh yeah, and the other big thing I want to mention. I know they're going to bring back Kutch, right? Obviously,
you would assume, yeah. Either that or he retired.
He should not. And I wrote this is another article I wrote. He should not be the start. He should not be guaranteed the everyday DH. The guy can barely get through 120 games, right? I mean, that's probably at best he's going to play 120 games.
Yeah.
And he's decent, but his strikeout percentage went up last year. He's going to get on base, but at some point there's going to be more of a decline. And we've seen it a little bit. And I think they have, if there's a DH out there that they can get, that could either platoon with Kutch.
That could be Max Kepler.
That could be Max Kepler, but I'd go after an everyday DH possibly. If Brent Rooker is available, I would go after Brent Rooker.
Here's a name I also want to mention that the Guardians are considering trading again because he's in trade.
Josh Naylor.
And then obviously Lane Thomas they also mentioned too. But Josh Naylor, that was the topic of discussion for the Pirates last year. In a way, it wasn't like the Pirates.
And if Kutch becomes more of a bench piece, I have no problem with that. But the thing is, Kutch, it's a whole personal thing with him being in Pittsburgh. But are we interested in winning or are we interested in not hurting people's feelings? If Kutch, he said he wanted to come here to win, that may be in more of a reserve role.
Right.
So I think they should be open to bigger options at the DH position.
I think, sacrifice a little bit of playing time for winning. I think he would be okay with that.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
Because I think that is like, at this point in his career, he wants to win. He wants to win with the Pirates. He's not looking at stats. He's not trying to get the craziest stats. We know that. So, and he's not healthy. He's just getting older, and that's what happens. You're not as pretty. I mean, he was running to first base, and he gets hurt. It's just right. But yeah, I mean, if Brent Rooker's available, I mean, geez.
I think the A's want to keep him.
I think they do too, especially
that. And it's not like the Pirates are going to get knowing that Ben Cherington, they're going to give them an offer they can't refuse.
Yeah.
So, but oh my gosh, if we ever got Brent Rook, I love Brent Rook.
He would instantly
I
be
just
the
love
best
him.
I mean,
offensive player.
Vegas is like, now that they're moving to Vegas, the Athletics are like, okay, we're spending, because Severino, they signed the biggest deal in franchise history already, like already in the free agency. So it's just.
So are they going to extend Rooker, or do they want some pitching prospects?
Well, he has several.
I mean,
I think they're going to keep him. They made it very clear they don't want to trade him.
The thing is, he's 30. He's an older younger. He's an older younger player per se.
Yeah.
So by the time Vegas comes around, do they really see him in their plans by then?
Yeah,
they do want like some established guys that'll get them through to Vegas as well, and that'll stay through Vegas. They were that's kind of why JJ Bleday. Like, I don't really think he's the greatest, but he's one of those guys who's a lot younger and was a former very high draft pick that the A's want to keep around and have some building blocks, because they're not. The Luis Severino signing, they're not going to win anything this upcoming season, or even maybe the following season. But that kind of signing for 3 years gets you through Sacramento and then into Vegas, and then maybe there's a re-signing with Severino. But if Brent Rooker is available, he would transform the offense, because he's a cleanup hitter. I mean, he hits how many home runs? He had like 30 like last season, and then this 2024 he had even more, had a higher average, just
much
everything.
higher average. Yeah.
Now he strikes out a lot, and his defense is horrendous. But you could put him in DH.
All right, so I think that's a good place to stop. We're going to go to the We Are Families. Holy crap! We Are Family.
It's been a
consensus.
Long day.
Yes, it has. We Are Family consensus. Top 10 teams. We already did one before earlier on during the NFL season, but now this is kind of our updated, and I'm sure there's teams that we never would have put up here beforehand, but now we are, because just anything can happen. So let's hear it, Peyton.
At 10, and I am very disappointed in this. I disagree very strongly. The Texans are at 10. At number 9, we have the LA Chargers. Number 8, Baltimore Ravens. Number 7, the Green Bay Packers. At 6, the Minnesota Vikings. At 5, your Pittsburgh Steelers. At 4, the Philadelphia Eagles. 3, the Kansas City Chiefs. 2, Buffalo Bills. And number 1, Dan Campbell, Riverboat Dan. Instead of Riverboat Ron, it's Riverboat Dan now.
Dan, bite your knees, Campbell.
Bro, this man goes for every fourth down and gets it. And
they're
not
unbelievable. Not 30 though.
Well, they still won the game.
Yeah.
So, I think actually this is the same as Jake Bell's list, but it actually just averaged out. I don't even know if this is technically correct because I didn't do the math, but I believe this is right. I have some disagreements here. For the most part, I mean, it's fine. Let's talk about the Texans, because they've not looked they're not playing to their potential. Yeah, they're winning their division, but their division stinks, and they have just not played very well. They barely beat. I mean, Mac Jones almost came back on them last week. They lost to Will Levis and the Titans. That is just unacceptable. And they barely won some games. C.J. Stroud, I think, is good. I think the offensive line has faltered. And the defense has just not been as good as people thought it would be with D'Amico Ryans. I think they're still missing some legitimate pieces in the secondary. To me, I think you have to put the Broncos and the Commanders over there, one of those teams in the top 10 right now. I know the Commanders have kind of fallen off, but again, both of those teams, well, I didn't say this on the record, but both of those teams are doing way more than not way more, but a significant. They're impressive. Let's just say that they're doing more with less. And I mean, the Broncos roster, the Commanders rosters are not excellent, and yet they're both 8-5. The Broncos did get outplayed by Cleveland, but they still managed to win that game. I have the Broncos at 10. I don't know. You guys had the Texans though, so.
Yeah, I just think the Texans are a better football team. I don't. That's really
on paper.
Okay, so they haven't looked great. Okay, but they beat the Bills early. We can't discredit
Because
that.
they won by 3 points, and Josh Allen went 9 of 30.
Well, that's because they're to give their defense credit then for that one.
No.
Who the Broncos beat? Like they've had such a. I mean, the Chargers beat them.
They killed the Falcons. I know the Falcons are down the turn, but they killed them.
I mean, we could say that they almost beat the Chiefs, but every team almost beat the Chiefs.
Yeah, the
so
Raiders
it's
almost
like-
beat the Chiefs.
yeah.
It's just I just don't think, and they should have lost to the.
What about
Jameis
the Commanders,
Winston,
though?
I
they-
agree.
Yeah.
But I think they need another week because they had bad performances
Yeah.
the past few weeks, and then losing to
They
the Cowboys.
didn't lose to the Titans.
I know, but I need another.
But I mean, they did lose to an openly tanking Cowboys team too.
Yes. So I need to see. I'm going to see another week from them. If they get another W and if they look good, they'll be in. That's simple as that.
So, yeah.
Simple as that.
The Chargers, I think them losing J.K. Dobbins is a huge loss.
I agree.
They did not look good against Atlanta, but Jim Harbaugh pulled some bullshit. They got it together. That's a legit playoff team. Justin Herbert, they have no other weapons really other than Ladd McConkey, and Ladd McConkey's been popping off. But he's a small guy. He's dealing with all sorts of injuries. So they got to figure out how their run game is going to proceed without J.K. Dobbins. Hopefully they get him back in time for the playoffs, but I don't know of his injury history.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Baltimore and the Packers. I actually had Baltimore over the Packers. I know the Ravens have had some, but they lost to two teams that are in our top 5, Pittsburgh and Philadelphia. The Packers, if you take away the 2 touchdowns they got on short field last night, they scored 17 points on a depleted Lions defense. And their defense did not look great. They've just been, I think come playoff time, they're going to be dangerous, but they have not looked great. But, I mean, neither of the Ravens. Both of those teams, it's just like I'm waiting for a significant win from them. So I guess I'm flip-flop there.
Well, I'm waiting for a significant win from the Broncos too.
They're on a different level than the Broncos. I mean, those are much better teams. Okay. Anyway, Pittsburgh, Minnesota. I had Minnesota over Pittsburgh.
I almost went that way.
I trust the quarterback more. I trust the offense a little more. But this Steelers offense, if they could continue what they did last week, obviously, and this is the big thing. I had the Eagles over the Chiefs. I mean, we got to be honest about the Chiefs. I mean, I know they're the Super Bowl. They've won 2 in a row. I know that I completely agree. Like come playoff time, you can't. They're going to be one of the teams that are you can't count them out ever. And I'm not counting them out. But based on how they've played and how dominant the Eagles have been, the Eagles are the better football. I was even thinking about putting the Eagles over the Bills at 2.
Wow.
But I obviously the thing with the Eagles is the quarterback I don't completely trust, and the coach I obviously do not trust at all. And the Lions, they have to keep winning with how tough their division is, but their defense is so depleted right now. But there's something magical what's going on with this Detroit team and their offense, the running back duo, the receiving core, the offensive line. It's the best in football. They have the best offense in the NFL. I think.
I think you have to. I mean, you can't. I mean, they put up 50. They put up. I mean, they're just destroying bad teams. They destroyed Tennessee. They destroyed Jacksonville, which you should, but they absolutely just demolished them. I agree with what you're saying about the Chiefs. I mean, if we were really doing like how well they played, I would put them 10.
Well, that's how I do it.
Yeah.
I mean, that's why I didn't have the Texans.
There's a combination of factors.
Yeah. It's like
they're
the
still winning.
It's the committee. It's the
committee. There's a variety of strength of schedule is very important. No, but they keep winning though. They're finding ways to win these games. You know what I mean?
But
so I'm saying like if I'm thinking like if Kansas City plays Philadelphia, I'm gonna favor the Chiefs still just because they're the Chiefs, and because I trust their coach more. I trust their quarterback more.
Yeah.
And
I'm not saying the Eagles would beat the Chiefs, but just based on, I mean, you look at how the Eagles have played. It's so tough to win 3. It's never been done. I don't think it's gonna happen. Like I don't see them going back to the Super Bowl. but you can never doubt the Mahomes and Mahomes magic and the
Mahomes.
refs too.
The refs. That's funny.
But yeah, I want to talk real quick about the Steelers. I know we talked about them earlier, but this Browns game, I think Mike Tomlin's going to have them ready to go. This is such an important game because, and it's not easy because the Browns have been playing good football. They outplayed the Broncos and destroyed their defense. And the Broncos defense, that's why they've been, I mean, Bo Nix has had a great rookie year, but their defense is what's carried them for most of the season. And Jameis Winston destroyed them. If he doesn't throw the 2 pick sixes, the Browns win that game. I mean, no doubt. So the Browns are still a dangerous football team. And they have never won at Acrisure Stadium. I didn't realize this. They have never won at Acrisure Stadium except for that playoff game. The Browns.
No way.
Never.
Like, even whenever it was called
Never in the
Heinz Field?
regular season have they beaten. This is what I heard. I don't know if this is true. I feel like they beat us once in the
Yeah,
regular season.
That's like 25 years.
Well, I know, but I think it's right. So, dude, and this Browns team is kind of Jameis is hot. You got to be careful of a hot quarterback, and I think the way the secondary's playing, and if Cleveland doesn't, if we don't win, because Cleveland won the line of scrimmage against us. If that happens, we might have to be in a shootout, especially with the way Joey Porter's playing, and it's going to be normal conditions, I think. So I'm still very worried about this game. The Steelers is a big favorite. I worry. But it is a huge game because if you win with the Baltimore on a bye week, you go up two games. And then essentially you have 2 scenarios to win the division. You beat one of the Eagles or the Chiefs and Cincinnati, or you just beat Baltimore and you win the division. So this is a must-win game for the division. And if the Steelers want to have a legitimate chance to contend, they need to win the division. So this should be, I mean, I think the Steelers should be aggressive on offense because, I mean, they got shut down for most of that game. They need to chip Myles Garrett. That is the big time factor. But I want to hear your thoughts on this game this weekend coming up.
No, yeah, I completely agree. It's a massive game for the AFC North because they lose this game, like you were saying with these scenarios. Baltimore got a bye, so there's a 1-game difference, and then they could be tied going into the game against each other. So, and then if Baltimore wins, they have a game up, and then the tiebreakers, doesn't even matter. So it is massive, and yeah, they're not winning. It's unlikely they'll win a road playoff game. Now, if it's at Houston, the way Houston's playing, there's a chance, but yeah, I think they do need to host. They need to have home playoff games. I mean, if they want to go really far, they need to get at least a 2 seed. But I think they will be locked into the 3 seed no matter what if winning the division. But yeah, and it will be interesting to see who controls the last scrimmage. Will the Steelers be kind of pissed off that the Browns just pushed them over all game in the snow? Will the defense, I think the defense is going to have a good, turnover day. I think Jameis will be able to throw because he's been able to throw on everybody.
They're going to have to get their defense. The Steelers' defense is built on turnovers. When they're not committing turnovers, they're not getting a lot of stops all the time.
Right.
Yeah.
And you got to hope that Jameis has 1 or 2 turnovers. You got to capitalize on those turnovers. But from a broader standpoint, this is the year to win the division because the Ravens are just sloppy, right? Browns have a great roster, but they're a mess with the quarterback situation, right? And then the Bengals, Burrow is having the year of his life, and they're 4-8. And they're gonna have some good teams down the line. Russell Wilson is getting older, right? You assume he's gonna be back next year, but his abilities have declined, and there's probably a chance it may decline more at some point. And this is it's set up for them this year. They have to take advantage, and I hope Mike Tomlin has them ready to go. I really do.
Yeah, I agree with you guys. I mean, just one more point before we go to our next topic. I truly feel that if the Steelers go and are one and dones in the playoff, they made no progress whatsoever. They're just like the last couple of years.
They have to win a playoff
They have
game.
to. I mean,
with how this season
there
has
is no
gone.
excuse. If they if they win 12, 13 games and are a first round exit, there's got to be some significant change because we've seen this story against the Browns in the playoffs against the
over and over and over.
It's just
again.
I do not want.
What's the common denominator?
Yes,
Mike
yeah.
Tomlin.
So
yeah. But I think Mike Tomlin has done. I mean, you got to give him
done
credit.
He's done great work this year, absolutely. But it's just if
But
we
at some
lose a
point-
first round playoff game to like the Chargers, like it's that's just.
No, that can't.
That
At some
can't
point,
happen.
that's
It
gonna
just can't.
matter.
Yeah,
like
that's
he's a
gonna matter
great
at some
coach.
point.
Nobody's disputing that.
Yeah.
And people say, well, he'd get hired in a minute, but that doesn't. He's been here for 18 years.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
Andy Reid got fired from Philadelphia.
Yeah.
And then the Eagles went on and ended up winning a Super Bowl. And look where their organization is still great. They're still fine.
Yeah.
And Andy Reid went on and he's doing great things. But that doesn't mean sometimes you need a change. But let's not we're thinking down the road. We're on to Cleveland. We're on to Cleveland
Yes,
right
gotta-
now.
gotta take
Negative
care of
thoughts.
business.
We're
We
living
can't be
the negative
negative.
thoughts.
I mean,
Yeah.
we have to appreciate what Mike Tomlin has
Yes.
done. I mean, this team has been buttoned up, and they've been resilient more than I've ever seen.
Yeah.
Other than George Pickens, this is the most buttoned up I've seen the Steelers
Other than George
in
Pickens.
a long
Yeah.
time. Other than George Pickens.
Yeah, honestly. All right, now we're going to continue on the NFL topic. We have got our NFL picks. So Peyton had to leave early, so we'll let you guys know of his picks afterwards. But right now, me and Nate will give you guys our picks. So Nate, you can start with the first game.
Okay, so Browns Steelers is the first one. You want to do that one first?
Yeah.
Or? Okay. I just think I think the Steelers respond. I think after that tough loss to Cleveland, getting just dominated on both lines of scrimmage, I think they'll come out kind of determined, and I think they'll get some turnovers. I don't think they'll. I'm still not sold on this defense. I'm very frustrated by it, but I think they'll do just enough to get the win. I think the line's about right. I think they win by about a touchdown.
Yeah, I agree. To me, I feel like it's more likely that the Steelers do not get swept by the Browns than it is for them to have another trap game. And I think the Steelers come out and they end up winning. And before we go to our next game, I do want to mention that I am the only winner of us three. I don't know what Jake picked, but of the Thursday night game, I was the only one who picked the Lions.
Oh, I think Cashman would have picked the Lions
Yeah.
too, but we don't know because
Yeah.
Cashman's not doing so well right
Yeah,
now.
I'm not going to make him
health-wise.
text us about his picks if he needs to get his
Yeah.
rest for sure.
Yeah.
So we both got Steelers then.
Yeah, and also, did you mention Peyton is not with us right
Yes,
now?
I did. Yes. Yeah.
Okay. I was pulling this up, but yeah. So we're gonna rattle off his picks as well as we
Yes.
go.
So we both got Steelers. All right, next game.
Next game, Saints versus the Giants.
Oh,
Will the
jeez.
Giants win another game this season?
Oh, that's tough. You can go your first if you want.
Yeah, so I do these picks on my radio show anyway, so I got them remembered. So I took the Saints. The Giants are just a mess right now, and I like Derek Carr more than I do Drew Lock or whoever is starting at quarterback for the Giants. I think this could be a closer game because the Saints only scored 14 against the Rams. Like their offense, they missed some opportunities offensively in the red zone. But I'm gonna take the Saints, and if they would have beat the Rams last week, they could have been like in the NFC South conversation.
Yeah.
That's probably unlikely now, but I'm gonna go Saints.
Honestly, I might go a different direction. I'm going to go Giants just because, like I mentioned before, I think Brian Dable is going to have just a couple random wins because he's trying to keep his job. So I don't think the Giants are just going to lose out because as much as it would make sense because they need to have a higher draft pick, Dable wants to keep his job. It's not like this is his first year and it's like, okay, I'm going to have more leeway. He's going to be on the hot seat, and that's the unfortunate reality. So I think he's going to come.
No,
out
I
and win this
agree. There
game.
definitely should be more urgency with the Giants.
Yeah.
I could see them winning. It's just these are not very good teams.
Yeah, it's not. Yeah,
So-
it's a lose-lose no matter
Right.
what we do.
All right, next one, Jets against the Dolphins. Miami coming off a tough loss to Green Bay. Their playoff hopes are really,
Yeah.
almost down the drain now. And the Jets, their playoff hopes were down the drain several weeks ago. They blew yet another game.
Yeah.
Who you got, Jake?
I have to go Dolphins. I just can't. I mean, I know there's that meme out there, and I always mention that you can't bet. You're like, why? Who bets on the Jets? And I can't be one of those people betting on the Jets.
Yeah, you've been
And
consistent with that. I came around to that a couple weeks ago. I'm just not picking them I might not pick them ever again, frankly, because I picked them so much this year.
Yeah.
And it's been the wrong pick every week. And Aaron Rodgers, too, I'm upset with him because he missed Garrett Wilson for that wide-open touchdown. I would have got some more fantasy points. I'm in the thick of the playoff conversation, but if I don't get a few bounces this week, it could be bad. So, Aaron Rodgers, I'm done with you.
Yeah.
He might, and he's not been... He might not even be a top 20 quarterback right now, the way he's playing.
Yeah.
It's kind of crazy.
His numbers don't look bad, but whenever you watch him, he's just not the same quarterback.
It seems like he's thrown for like 140 yards every game.
Yeah.
And the talent he has as a receiver is very underwhelming. So
Yeah.
I'm going Miami as well.
Sounds
They're
good.
just too talented.
Yeah.
But the Jets are pretty talented too.
They're
just
yeah.
a mess.
Yeah.
Another just game I can't wait to watch. Jaguars against the Titans.
Jeez. Why does this have to happen?
They got to play each other, division opponents.
Jeez. You can go first if you want.
I'm going to take the Titans. I think I just cannot pick Mac Jones ever.
Yeah.
They almost somehow beat Houston. They made it really close at the end last week when Mac Jones came in.
Yeah.
But I just think Tennessee at home, Will Levis has shown some things. The Jaguars' defense is just horrific. It's them and the Bengals have. I mean, the Jaguars are still like worse than the Bengals defensively, like in all the numbers. Like at one point they were like in all these categories they were the worst like all time. It's like crazy how bad they are. So I'm gonna go Tennessee, but I don't have much confidence. You have no idea with these terrible teams.
Yeah, I want to go to the Jaguars. I'm like maybe Mac Jones will come around. I just can't. It's just I have to go to Titans. I hate going either team. I wish that I could just say neither, but like I can't. So yeah, I'm going Titans.
Okay, next one, Falcons at the Vikings. Falcons need to get some wins here because if they lose and the Bucs, who play the Raiders, win, then Tampa's first place in the NFC South.
Yeah.
It's crazy. So who you got there?
You know what? I'm going to pick the upset. I'm going Falcons. They need this win so desperately, and I bet against the Vikings more than I should. And I shouldn't because they're 10-2 and I've probably gotten screwed over 5 times. But I feel more confident now, even though the Vikings need this win too, because I'm sure they're eyeing up the division as well. I have to go Falcons.
Yeah, so this is interesting. Kirk Cousins returning to Minnesota, and it wasn't like a sour exit or anything like that. They might cheer him. I don't know, but he was just. I cannot pick the Falcons. I mean, he was just so bad.
Yeah.
I need to see a game. Like, do you see that? Like the one throw was like a curveball speed, like of a throw. It was just like in the air that whole time. It was like never got to the receiver.
Yeah.
And some of the decisions he made, the other picks were just like really weird decisions. Like, why would you throw those?
Right.
I need to see him like kind of bounce back before I think the Falcons will win. I think this could be a lower scoring game actually, but I'm going to take Minnesota. But I could see this is a big game for the Falcons. So
for sure.
It's famous saying it's put up or shut up time for,
for
Atlanta because this could the Bucs have all the momentum right now in that division. Sure. Next one, Panthers, who've actually been playing better recently.
Yeah, that's crazy.
At Philadelphia, who's also been playing very well recently.
Yeah.
And they're 10-2 already, so they've obviously been just playing well all year.
Eagles, it's to me a no-brainer. They're playing like how we're saying a top 5 team that could be a top 3 team.
Right.
So it's just.
Well, I mean, talent-wise, they are loaded.
Yeah.
They're just a really good football team right now, and Saquon Barkley's just been everything the Eagles could have wanted and so much more.
Absolutely.
The Giants letting them go. One of the poor decisions I think a front office has really ever made.
And while Tyrone Tracy is a solid running back, it's just you could tell how important Saquon Barkley was to Daniel Jones' success.
Yeah.
And it's just that just became a whole mess.
Yeah, for sure. So I'm going to go Eagles, but I do think I am really encouraged what I'm seeing from Bryce Young.
Yeah.
They would have won that game against Tampa if Hubbard doesn't fumble that ball.
Right.
They were about to just kick a field goal and win. They were just trying to get closer. And that fumble really hurt Carolina.
Yep.
They're playing better. It's good to see. It's good to see Bryce Young playing better. But I'm going to take the Eagles. But it was a big line. I think the Panthers might cover. So
honestly.
It was like 12.5. I just think the Panthers are not, they're not like the Jaguars or something where you could see. Although the Jaguars and Eagles game was pretty close earlier in the season.
Honestly.
But there was that game I was mentioning, Raiders at the Buccaneers. Raiders have been coming so close, but
Yeah.
they just cannot get any wins. Tampa, by the skin of their teeth, was able to beat Carolina last week.
I have a feeling that Baker is going to wake up feeling dangerous because I'm going with the Bucs. I think they have to win. They're eyeing up what the Falcons want, and they're trying to win that mediocre to terrible division that they're in. So
It's crazy how since Drew Brees has been gone, it's just been the worst division ever. Even with
Yeah.
Tom Brady, like they
Yeah.
were going 9-8.
I mean, think about it. Like during Drew Brees, like Matt Ryan and Cam Newton were still
Right,
playing pretty
right.
well enough, and it was weird because like Tampa was like mediocre, but they were always down at the bottom with Jameis Winston, and
And
at
they
that
were,
one
but
point,
they were always
Fitzpatrick.
like, they were always like a feisty, like 8-8 or 7-9 kind of thing.
Yeah, absolutely.
But yeah, I'm gonna go Tampa for sure. These are huge games for Tampa, and they've had an easy schedule in the last few games, and then to close the season. So
Yeah.
right now the momentum's all in Tampa's favor if they win this one, and especially this is so big for both because they don't have the tiebreaker obviously over Atlanta, so
Yeah, absolutely.
they need to finish a game ahead of them. So I'm
Yeah.
gonna take Tampa to win that one. Now we're gonna move to some of the afternoon games, 4 o'clock window. Seahawks at the Cardinals, rematch of a couple weeks ago.
Ooh.
Yeah,
This is tough. It's at Arizona.
yes, yep.
Give me the Cardinals. This is probably the toughest game to predict.
Yeah, yeah, because I like the skill players overall of Seattle actually a little bit more.
Yeah.
Because I love James Conner and I really like McBride, their tight end,
Yeah, he's fantastic.
and obviously Marvin Harrison. I am going to take the Cardinals too in a very close. I think these are two very evenly matched teams.
Yeah.
Which is a credit to Jonathan Gannon. I always forget
Yeah.
his name.
He's literally like, it's funny because he's like a goofball, and you're like,
Yeah,
why-
remember last
who's this
year?
guy? Yeah, and
I don't remember what it was, but it might have been for Hard. I don't know if it was Hard Knocks or something.
I
They
think
were
it
like-
was, yeah.
It was hard. They were filming him, and he had like the worst speech like of
Yeah.
all. It was just like, what are you even saying?
Yeah, it's just.
But
yeah.
they've kind of rallied around him. They played better than
Yeah.
expected last year, and this year they're in the hunt for a NFC West title.
Yeah,
so.
I mean, he's doing his job as a coach, and you can't fault him for that. I mean,
Yeah.
the Cardinals are a good team. I mean, it's weird to say that.
It's definitely a toss-up kind of game, but
Yeah.
I think the Cardinals lost to the Seahawks earlier. I think they even it up and win at home.
Yeah.
This is the game. Bears at the 49ers. This is a funny game because both teams are. Well, the Bears are 4-8, or 4 and. What are the Bears? 4-8,
I think
4
they
and
are
9?
4-8. Yeah.
And the Niners are 5-7. You want to go first, or
I mean, I keep taking them, and they keep screwing me, but I'm going 49ers.
you go Niners?
Yeah. Bears could easily win this game, though. I'm going Niners, so.
I'm taking Chicago.
Chicago.
You know,
Wow.
I think it's gonna be one of those things where a team just plays. We saw when they fired their offensive coordinator, they played much better the next week. I think
Yeah.
getting rid of Eberflus will kind of inject some into this team. I think the Bears win. I think the Niners is just a lost season. They've had so many injuries,
Yeah.
but a lot of teams have. But it's just not the year for them. McCaffrey going down again. And the defensive side of the ball, they're missing so many guys.
Right.
I'm going to go with the Bears because the Bears almost beat the Lions at relative full strength. The Lions lost a lot of guys during that game, but
Yeah.
the Bears should have won that game if not for Eberflus. So I'm going to take Chicago.
Yeah.
This is an interesting game. Bills at the Rams.
Ooh. Give me Bills.
Yeah, I'm going to go with the Bills as well. The Rams I think they've shown they're just a very mediocre team this year.
I mean, it's kind of over for them, unfortunately.
yeah,
Even though they're still in contention, right? But,
Yeah, they're a game back. So if the Seahawks lose,
I didn't realize they're that close. Yeah.
if the Seahawks lose and they somehow win this game, then everybody's tied like at 7-6, except for the Niners. But I just don't think they're off. Something's off with the offense right now for the
Yeah.
Rams. It should be a lot better with Kupp and Nakua and Kyron Williams. But it's just not. I don't know what's going on there. It might be a Matt Stafford thing, but he's such a good quarterback. But I'm gonna go Bills. People are saying it's like a kind of trap game. I don't understand. I
wouldn't
think,
say I don't know if that's technically a trap game.
Yeah, it's
right?
a tough
I mean,
game, but like
yeah.
the line was like 5.5, then it moved down to 3. Like a lot of people are on the Rams.
Yeah.
I just think the Bills are on a different level right now, and they got to keep winning to match Kansas City and try to get that number 1 seed. So I'm gonna go Bills as well. Okay, the Sunday night game is Chargers at the Chiefs. Very interesting game. Both teams figure to be playoff teams. One of them for sure. Yeah, I'm gonna go. I'm just not picking against the Chiefs.
Yeah, I'm the same way.
Because like if the Raiders and the Broncos are taking the Chiefs down to the wire, the Chargers could win easily. This Chiefs are 11-1 though. You know what I mean? Every game, when it matters most, when it gets to that 2-minute warning, the Chiefs just figure out a way to hold on.
Yeah.
Even though that the blocked kick with the Denver game, the Raiders had that it was a weird fumble kind of thing at the end.
Yeah.
It was just really weird circumstances. But I'm gonna go Chiefs. That should be a really good game, and
it should be.
I think the Chargers definitely gonna hang around. It will be very close.
Yeah, I almost want to go with the Chargers, but I don't know. Every time you bet against the Chiefs, you get screwed. So I can't do that again.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, and then Monday night. This game, I said this earlier with the Bengals game, and I was completely wrong that it lost its luster. The Bengals and the Cowboys, this looked like a much better game going into the season than it does now, with both teams basically eliminated.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go Cincinnati.
I'm in the same boat.
If the Bengals if Cooper Rush torches the Bengals defense, they're not gonna win a game ever again. I don't think.
Yeah.
It's crazy. I mean, the Steelers did whatever they wanted against the Bengals. Every team really has.
Yeah.
But it's Cooper Rush, CeeDee Lamb. He's been banged up a little bit. Running game, know. I just don't see how the Bengals don't win this one. But other than their defense just somehow just being the worst all time.
Yeah, I mean, the Bengals are going to go into this saying, hey, we're not mathematically out of the playoffs, so you might as well just try to win out.
Even though, if Denver wins one more game,
the writing's on the wall.
And they lose one, it's over.
But, yeah, I mean, it's just the Bengals are not going to want to tank the rest of the year, even though if they get eliminated, they might as well, but they're not going to.
They might as well just tank and get a star defensive player.
Yeah. Travis Hunter, put him at cornerback.
It's funny. We were talking about this earlier. They have incredible individual performances from Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase, even T. Higgins, and Trey Hendrickson on the defense. And they have Mike Hilton, they have guys, but they're just so bad, collectively as a unit on that defense.
Absolutely.
Which is unfortunate it has to be so frustrating for that offense. You're putting up in the 30s every game and you're losing.
All right,
crazy.
I agree. All right, before we end off, Peyton sent us our picks, so let's go over them real quick. Obviously, we mentioned before he had the Packers. He has the Steelers to beat the Browns. He's got the Saints to beat the Giants. He's got the Dolphins to beat the Jets. Yeah, Dolphins beating the Jets. Jaguars beating the Titans. Vikings beating the Falcons. Eagles beating, who are they playing? Panthers. Eagles beating the Panthers. Bucks. He's got Bucks. I don't even.
Against the Raiders.
Raiders. Yeah, I'm already losing my memory. It's been a long day. Cardinals against the Seahawks. Bears against the 49ers. He's got the Bills beating
the Rams.
the Rams. He's got the Chiefs beating the Chargers, and he's got the Bengals beating the Cowboys. So pretty similar to what most of ours, other than the Jaguars winning.
Yeah, that's an interesting one. Yeah, Mac Jones giving him a spark.
Yeah, Peyton, we're gonna hold that one against you if they lose again to the bad Titans team.
That's a bad take.
But anyway, I think that concludes our episode, right?
Yeah, it does, and we'll be back next week, hopefully full time in the Media Hub.
Yes.
We had some issues with scheduling conflicts, some technical stuff, but we did it. We got this. At least we were able to do the audio with it too at the end here. So make sure you like and subscribe and tell your friends about the We Are Family Pittsburgh Sports Podcast. We're going places, folks.
We are going places, guys, and you want to be there on the ride. So make sure you. We would love the support. We're not. I'm not gonna. I would love to force it down your throat, but.
If you want to in the comments, give your national championship picks.
Yes.
because we might not be discussing that. We might, or may or may not. So we probably will next week. So we
Yeah.
can talk about that. So yeah, if you stayed the whole time to watch the video,
Yeah.
then you have to you're mandated to comment your national championship team.
With that being said, thank you guys again so much for watching. Good luck on your finals if you're in college, and have a great rest of your week.